morning. It's Thursday, August 31st. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Up to the Minute. I'm Sade Campbell, the Strategic Enrollment Communications Manager here at Houston Community College. Pleased to be joined by my communications colleague, Montrose Cunningham, who is HCC Northwest's Community Outreach Coordinator. Good morning, Montrose.
Good morning, Sade. How are you?
I'm doing well, wrestling with the idea that August has already happened to us, like it's over.
I know. And, I saw today is National Beach Day. So
And here we are.
We got to
not on the
talk
beach.
to the powers that be, and next time we got to do this on location.
There you
Seaside.
go. Absolutely. Well, until we can get to Seaside, help people find out where they can actually find us.
Yes, we're live on the Houston Community College District Facebook page, not HCC, and YouTube. We're also on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, LinkedIn, and on HCCTV at noon, 5, and 10 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Thank you so much for that. Well, as it always is here, it is Thursday Family Fun Day, and we'll discuss an exhibit at the Houston Museum of Natural Science known for its famous ornamental eggs, but there is so much more. Joining us to talk to us today is Amanda Norris, who serves as the Director of Education Sales at the Houston Museum of Natural Science. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Sade. How are you?
I am doing great and interested to hear exactly what ornamental eggs are.
They're pretty great. I have a little one on my neck today.
All right. Shout out to you for the preview. You and Montrose are going to have a conversation in just a second. But first, we're going to talk to a man who handles HCC's communications instruction by day. But by night, he is lacing up his tennis shoes and leads our tennis team. Welcome into the show, Carlton Abernathy, who's a communications program coordinator and the head coach for our HCC tennis team. Welcome back to the show, Carlton.
Thanks for having me, Sade.
And I support rec sports in on the communications end, and I know it is a big time for tryouts this time of year for our teams, but it's also really active tennis season right now. A lot of big news coming from tennis.
Absolutely. You mentioned tryouts. Just get a free plug in here. Our tryouts are actually on Friday at Homer Ford Tennis Center. So we start at 10 a.m. Anyone that wants to join us, come on out.
Awesome. And the thing about community colleges is people always seem surprised that the ability to do competitive sports is a thing here. Have you found that as a coach in your recruiting?
What's funny is we have all different levels of players. We don't just limit it to the people that are going out there and trying to be like the best and most advanced players. We have a wide open array of players. Everyone from people who have never even touched or picked up a racket to people who have actually played. We actually had a former player that was on the ATP tour. So from top to bottom, you could say, and we really try to grow the sport. That's one of the things we're really passionate about because pickleball is kind of taken over. So we want to make sure tennis has its longevity and can keep going. But we teach beginners literally how to hold the racket, how to swing, and everything really.
Okay. So you mean I don't just have to be a spectator anymore? I can really come learn something.
Absolutely. All we require is that you be an HCC student and just 1 credit hour, and you can come on out and we can at least start teaching you the ways of tennis.
And a lot of how we choose what sports we offer here at HCC is based on the demand from students. How did the tennis team get started at HCC?
It was kind of a funny story. When I started adjuncting in 2007, I had I guess it was the program athletic director at the time, Troy Jefferson. I was trying to promote one of my journalism classes outside of registration line, and he was sitting right next to me with a table. I had a table, and just got to talking on the side because we had a break, and we found out that we had athletics. And he said, or, what's your background? I told him I played tennis in college, and really that's how we started, and it kind of took off from there. And we've been doing it ever since, and been really going strong ever since, with the exception of COVID, of course. But ever since, that's been the go.
I love when happenstance and opportunity just happen to just collide. It creates something you never even really were thinking was going to be on your plate. Now, you mentioned that students, everyone from who's a novice all the way down to who are experts, are able to compete, but that's that sweet spot between the difference between intramurals and club sports. So for students who are wondering, what is tennis, intramural or club sport, and what's the difference?
So I kind of break it down into three different levels. You have intramural sports, which is basically where you have your players play against other players at the same college. So intramurals would include HCC players playing other HCC players. Club sports is where we actually travel and play against other colleges. Typically, we play against Houston area colleges. We're actually in the Lone Star League, where we play Lone Star, Sam Houston, Lee College, Rice, Lamar. And then there's an upper echelon level of athletics, which is what most of us think of, which is intercollegiate athletics. We don't have that, but I guess one of the biggest differences that also should be noted between your intramurals and your actual club sports is that club sports has a coach, and everything's kind of organized for you, and HCC pays for most of it. So there you go.
And so for those who may have missed it, in between all of this, tennis is a club sport.
Yes, absolutely. So we fall into the category of intramurals and club sports, because what we do, especially for our beginners, because we don't want our beginners to get, we don't want them to go out there and face like 100-mile-an-hour serve. That'd be asking too much, right? So we have them start out playing against players that are at their level, so other beginners. So they'll play intramurals and kind of work their way up, and when they feel comfortable, we transition them eventually into club sports.
Great, awesome. So that's how that's how you're able to offer an opportunity for players at every level. Now, you mentioned COVID, and our student clubs, athletics, they are all rebuilding post-COVID, and I know students are really excited to have club sports and intramural sports back. What's the biggest challenge you've seen with building back the team, or just in general of helping student athletes during your time as a coach?
So I have two biggest, you might call them, I call them challenges. And the biggest challenge right now is finding female players that are comfortable playing at that club level. In other words, we actually play in the format we play in is basically called Tennis on Campus. It's through USTA, United States Tennis Association. And one of the caveats to that type of play is that there's a mixed double session where you have a male and a female playing on the same side together, playing against another male and a female. And our beginner females don't like jumping out there with, like I said before, like 70 to 80-mile-an-hour shots coming at them. So our toughest challenge right now is finding female players that are really comfortable making that transition. Most female players that play tennis in high school in the Houston area are usually playing somewhere. So that's just kind of the crux of that. But the other challenge that we have is that we are a 2-year school, and we play against a lot of 4-year schools. So every 2 years, every year, I should say, we basically lose half of our team. And so we have to get new players every single year.
Well, for those who are listening, it should sound like an opportunity if you for you to get back into something that you thought you had to put down, but definitely want to end on a high level. What are some of the highlights you've seen from coaching tennis?
I've got a lot. I always like to throw out success stories. We've had, I have my assistant coach right now is a former player, and he volunteers his time to come out and coach with us. But he's a civil engineer. We actually have two players that work for Texas Children's Hospital now. And I have a ton of success stories that just kind of roll on and on and on. But I would be remiss if I did not mention one thing that we were able to do at the tennis competitive level last season. One of our goals was to actually travel and compete in the big United States Tennis Association sectionals tournament at the state level. And we competed, and we made it to the gold bracket, which usually two-year schools do not make. And we made it. We got about 12th place out of about, I think, 60 or 70 teams. So we did awesome.
Okay. I love to hear that. So I want to hear more. I want to hear Eagles are soaring, that we are surpassing, even that we're going back this year. So I'm happy to hear an update. Definitely want to hear from you at the end of the season. And we are so happy that you came to talk about the opportunity. So those who've been listening, don't forget, tryouts are when?
This Friday at Homer Ford Tennis Center. We start at 10 a.m. Come on out. We'll be there from basically 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Come on out, and we'll see where you are, and we'll put you in the right spot.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been speaking with Carlton Abernathy, who's a communications program coordinator and the head coach of our HCC tennis team. We'll have information posted after the show about the tennis team. Thanks so much for joining us, Carlton.
Thank you, Sade. Have a good one.
You too. Well, Montrose, for a lack of play on, for me to play on words, I'm going to swing it over to you.
Well, and I just noticed that you also use the term sweet spot, which is also a tennis term. So look at you.
all on accident. So I think, offline, you and Carlton are going to talk about, I don't know, maybe doing a masterclass, you being a coach. I don't know. You have so many titles, but I think you need one more.
Yes. I'm calling him later. So moving on to Amanda Norris, Director of Education Sales for the Houston Museum of Natural Science. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Hi, Montrose. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and I got to tell you, I love my kids. We go to the museum all the time. They love it there. So
there's a ton to see. You could be here for days and still not see it all.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you're here today to talk about the Everyday Faberge exhibit, which we've been promoting all week as a lot more than just eggs. Tell us about this treasure trove from the largest collection of Faberge in the world.
Yeah, that's what's so exciting about this collection. It is the largest in the world. Number 2 is actually the King of England. So we beat that. We're excited about that. We have some amazing pieces on display. The imperial eggs is what they're mostly known for, those large Easter eggs with surprises that were given in the Russian imperial family starting back in 1885. And so what is really unique about our exhibit is we do have one of those imperial eggs on display, but we also have 2 more eggs. They're not imperial. They made 15 outside of the imperial family, and we have 2 on display in our exhibit, which are just spectacular. One of my favorites is the Nobel ice egg. That was from the Nobel Peace Prize family. They commissioned this egg to be done, and they loved it so much. They commissioned other pieces that looked similar to it to give as gifts. I wish we were friends with them and got those kind of gifts. But Faberge, so that's kind of where he takes off with the imperial family, and he starts being known as this jeweler to the royals. And then, of course, everybody wants a little bit of royal. So the upper echelon of society started kind of reaching out to Faberge and having him create things for them. And, everyday items, not necessarily for us, but, fancy cigarette cases and rulers and bell pushes. So if you've had electricity in your house, why not be even more fancy and show that off with a Faberge bell push so that when you called your staff, it looked really amazing to you. Even stuff where you could store your stamps, watches, clocks, things for their vanity sets. So There is so much in here. I've watched people go through, and from the smallest to the oldest, they find something that they love in this exhibit.
Okay, yes, and I was going to ask you about some. So the items that you just mentioned, these are more functional items, because we normally think of these as just display items. But from what you're telling me, Carl Faberge created functional items as well.
He did. We even have a top of a cane, so like a cane handle. He's got some really beautiful cane handles on display from his carved figures. Snuff boxes. We have a little gherkin, which is looks like a little pickle, and it was a scent box for you to put your perfume in, so that you could just put that in your little bag and go to your balls and smell nice. So yeah, it was he wanted to, because as a businessman, yes, you want to have that royalty connection. You want to have the things that are fancy and nice for display. But if you want your business to continue, you've got to start connecting to something that people can use and people can relate to. So here come these everyday objects. And he was a pretty smart business guy, that Faberge. He figured out how to try to get everybody involved in his pieces.
Okay. And we're talking about a lot of this, and most of us are familiar with some of the items, but on display, you also have some of the more opulent pieces like tiaras and things like that, correct?
Yes. So it is thought that there are about 8 tiaras in existence. We have 2 of those on display in this exhibit. We have the aquamarine tiara. It's beautiful. I'm a big blue fan, as you can tell. So that's one of my favorites. When we first put that on display, I went and kind of squatted low under the case and made it look like it was on my head and took a picture. So that's a really, really pretty piece. We have what we call the Empress Josephine tiara. Tsar Alexander gave 6 beautiful, huge diamonds to Empress Josephine after her divorce from Napoleon. They were just friends, but he gave her some diamonds, and she used those diamonds to have this eventually makes its way into this tiara. So you get to see this beautiful, just sparkly. I mean, everybody loves them. They see the tiaras and like you hear the right away, because they're just so stunning.
So in addition to the display, we also, as you just mentioned, we get to learn a little some fun facts about the czars of Russia included in the exhibit.
Yes, and that's the really interesting thing. The czars, as you know, during the Bolshevik Revolution, everybody has heard the story of Anastasia and the family being brushed out of, and taken away. And that kind of ends that line there in Russia with that family. There are pieces in this exhibit that belong to them. That imperial egg, the diamond trellis egg, belonged to them. There's a photo frame of Anastasia, and there's a picture, and then there's an actual picture of her, and it's her actual signature on it. So you get that really up close and personal feel to this royal family. And we have a beautiful board on display where you can kind of see the genealogy, because as we know, a lot of these royal families in Europe, they're all interconnected in some way or another. And that's how, again, we mentioned earlier about how Faberge kind of tweaked its way down to different royal houses, because they gave them as gifts to each other. So you'll see some connections through that as well, which is really interesting to see.
Okay. And when, Faberge eggs are such a part of pop culture, from James Bond movies back in the 80s to the Ocean's 11 movies, and even on The Simpsons, Mr. Burns, the richest guy in town, owns a Faberge egg and a Faberge chicken and all of this stuff. But so are Faberge eggs only, was it the only affluent members of society able to own them?
So Faberge made 65 eggs. Out of those 65, 50 of them belong to the imperial family. So that you pretty much had to be, within the royal line to have it. And it was initially started with Tsar Alexander, who had one created for his wife. And that was the one that started in 1885. And then after he passed and his son took over as Tsar Nicholas, he started having them made for his wife and his mother. So then we started getting 2 a year for Easter. And that's why we had such a huge, really, really neat collection of them. Only, as far as we know, 57 of the full-size eggs survived through the years that have been found. I mean, sometimes they find them in weird places. There was a story of one having been found at a 5 and dime in London
Wow.
many years ago. And someone was like, this looks cool. And they bought it, and it was the Mosaic Faberge. So
Wow. I
they're
need
out
that.
there.
I need that occurrence in my life right
Wouldn't that
now.
be so cool? That would be cool.
Oh, wow. So in the last 60 seconds we have left, how can everyone explore this artistry and innovation of Carl Faberge?
Yeah, the best way to come is come by the museum, come check it out. It's part of our permanent exhibit hall collection. You can visit us on our website at hmns.org and get more details, get the ticketing information. But it's a beautiful display. It's in our Imperial Russian room. So from the Winter Palace, it looks just like that. So you really get the whole feel of Russia and Faberge.
All right. Well, thank you, Amanda Norris, Director of Education Sales for the Houston Museum of Natural Science. We'll have your information in our post after the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Montrose.
All right.
All right. At first when I hopped on and I was running a little behind this morning, I said, man, I should really just give Montrose a tennis interview. Like that's something he could speak to with so much authority. But you did this one with authority too.
Yeah, I just want to find a Faberge egg at Family Dollar and and find one and find out that it's worth millions of dollars.
Listen, I'm not saying I'm not gonna go to work anymore. I'm just saying that would be a blessing.
Right.
Well, we're gonna end things off on a good note of announcement. Not quite as high of a note of possibly winning lottery type money, but we're gonna kick things off with announcements with our police academy graduation, and congratulating our peace officers. HCC Police Academy will recognize its graduates next week, 7 to 9 p.m., Thursday, August 31st. Oh, actually, that is today. That'll be happening. Yes, tonight, 7 to 9 p.m., Thursday, August 31st at our HCC Central campus. Congratulations to all the graduates. Details will be posted after the show.
All right. And job fairs continue, the path to profession. Students eligible for work study can still attend a Path to Profession job fair to secure part-time student work where they can earn $15 an hour. And that's today, going on now until 2 p.m. at West Loop. And then next week, that will be happening at A-Leaf, Stafford, and Katy campuses. And you can check out our post after the show for more dates and registration info.
Now, Montrose, when I looked for a work study job when I was, once upon a time in college, and I looked at all the posts and it said $6. I said, oh, $8. That's the only job I'm applying to. But $15?
Yeah,
really. Get to the job fair. Get there.
I worked for campus housing and we were not making $15 an hour. So
no, it's an excellent opportunity with an employer that understands, hey, you go to school and your schedule really needs to reflect that. So definitely a big champion of the work study program here at HCC. We're going to move on to Black Men in Business Boot Camp, and that is going to focus on operations and efficiency. HCC will host the virtual workshop for entrepreneurs to share strategies to promote inclusivity, diversity, and equal opportunities. It'll be happening from 6 to 8 p.m. Tuesday, September 5th on Zoom. Check out the post after the show for details.
All right. And avoid burnout. Tips from HCC Counseling. Join Counseling and Ability Services with co-host Dr. Estelle Sitt, retired HCC counselor, to explore the reality of college burnout and discuss tips to help avoid this growing trend.
Look, and I have to apologize to my co-host because the look I just gave him when he said avoid burnout.
I was like, it's 11 a.m. to noon, Friday, September 8th. On WebEx, and you can check out our post after the show for registration. Yeah, I was like, now is that for students or employees?
Listen, because I need to check the post after the show. So there's a way to avoid it. I don't just slip into it and then try to recover from it.
Exactly.
I need to take some preventive measures. this is the thing. Burnout just sounded like a concept into the pandemic for me. I'm gonna be really, really honest. And it was a thing, you can't sleep it off, you can't vacation it off. Like it is a real thing. So, but it's also a real thing for students who are juggling life, because life be lifing sometimes, and the added responsibility of going to school. So I'm sure it definitely there are definitely takeaways for both staff and students. Well, another important announcement from financial aid, want to remind you to take note that all of financial aid emails will be going exclusively to your HCC student email address. This is a bit of a change for students who've been here for some years. So be sure to check your HCC email for all of your financial aid updates. We don't want you to miss anything regarding funding opportunities or potential aid.
Right. And classes have begun. Fall registration remains open. So it's open, and Second Start classes begin September 18th. All classes are offered in person and online. And to learn more about HCC programs, start dates, and options to cover costs, go to hccs.edu/apply.
All right. Well, coming up tomorrow, we will talk to a student with an incredible story about her kidney transplant. And we'll also have Film Friday, which you don't want to miss. And also don't forget that we will have a long weekend coming up. I won't forget, but I want you not to forget. So Up to the Minute will not air on Monday when HCC is closed. Thanks so much for joining us for this edition of Up to the Minute. We'll see you next time.